some period drama, but not the kind of period drama where it's like British people in hundreds of years ago. The kind of period drama where a TikTok mutual of mine receives death threats from libs of TikTok. Here was the original video. Just says trans girl experiences first intense period after HRT.
Why is this thing not hot? I swear to God, if anyone says welcome to womanhood, I'm gonna lose my shit.
So basically just somebody expressing real pain that they are experiencing, real cramping. There is one mistake in the video. The one mistake is that she used the word period. Now, typically, the term period refers to the shedding of the uterine lining, the bleeding that would happen if an egg is not fertilized. For those that don't know, PMS, which is associated with like bloating, cramps, irritability, mood swings, that kind of stuff, it's actually experienced even by people who don't have uteruses that do have a female endocrine system. So, for example, if you're a cis woman who has had a hysterectomy, you don't have a uterus anymore, you can't have uterine lining shedding, you can't get a period, you still get PMS. You will get that same kind of cramping, bloating, irritability, all that kind of stuff. This can happen to people even that don't have a uterus. And actually, scientists and doctors to this day are not 100% certain on the cause of PMS. Our best knowledge on the topic is that it seems to have to do something with the way that human bodies cycle a female hormone profile. Estrogens, progesterones, and another hormone called prostaglandins. Those seem to be playing a role in this, but scientists aren't exactly sure why exactly it happens or who exactly is going to get it. About like 1 in 4 women in general don't experience PMS, at least not usually. We think we've kind of pinpointed what is causing it, but not exactly why it's causing it. We just don't know as much about the medicine of marginalized groups. And trans women also experience this if they are taking HRT. If you're a trans woman, you can get this kind of PMS cramps. When Harlot Rose posted this video, while it is a technical mistake to say that like this is a period, I think that the different levels of charitability we would assign to a trans woman versus a cis woman doing the exact same thing is really telling. If you just think about how the situation would have gone if a cis woman who had a hysterectomy was like, oh gosh, I'm experiencing period cramps, there would not be any kind of outrage at all. People would be very charitable, be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, queen. Actually, did you know you can still get PMS even if you don't have a uterus anymore? That's just kind of how the body cycles hormones. It's weird, so sorry you're experiencing this, hope you feel better. What is so telling about this situation is that there is zero charitability which is afforded to a trans woman. She receives literal death threats from the libs of TikTok crowd. There is no charitability which is assigned to the trans woman. I think that if there was an equal charitability, then people in the comments would be like, oh, just so you know, you're actually experiencing PMS. People in general just don't care about the issues of trans people. They're just looking for anything they can use to attack trans people. These reactionary types literally sent her death threats over this. I wonder how this video would have gone down if she used the term PMS. Libs of TikTok probably still would have clipped this and be like, you crazy tranner, like only women can do this. I'm guessing that they also would have received horrible hate movement, a horrible backlash, even if they use the correct term, just because the reactionary libs of TikTok crowd, they don't care about science. They don't see this and they're like, can trans women actually get cramps? Their immediate reaction is, look at these delusional tranners. If they cared about the science, they would just like do a quick Google search and be like, hey, can trans women experience period cramps? And then they learn, oh, there actually is this PMS that trans women can experience. But that's not the reaction at all. The fact that they are ignoring that just shows that it's not about truth. It's not about science. It's not about being correct. It's about hating trans people. That's what it's always been about with this Libs of TikTok crowd. Okay, response video that Harles created was right here.
Hi, do you remember this video?
I do.
I sure do, because the internet won't stop harassing me over it. Just in case you don't remember it, a couple days ago I uploaded this video of my girlfriend experiencing cramps, and it got re-uploaded to a transphobic Twitter account, which then got re-uploaded to Libs of TikTok. And it's been seen by over 11 million people, including Transphobe of the Year Matt Walsh and his wife.
I can't believe she got to Daddy Matt Walsh before I did. I'll get there one day, don't you worry.
Ever since uploading this video, my girlfriend and I have been experiencing a lot of hate and even death threats. I'm gonna start off by saying she wasn't faking it, and she asked me to upload the video because she wanted to share her experiences online, which I think is completely valid. We never claim to have uteruses, we never claim to be menstruating, we never claim to be bleeding, there is no shedding of the uterine lining that was happening. To my knowledge, there are no recorded cases of any trans women having any uteruses.
There are some cases of trans women who have uteruses. There are intersex trans women where you're born with like male genitalia, but internally you have a uterus, and sometimes you have ovaries or ovotestes inside. You can have a lot of really interesting combination of internal versus external genitalia with certain intersex conditions. And so there are a couple cases out there of trans women who discover they actually have uteruses. It actually does happen sometimes. Kind of wild.
So people are wondering, how is this happening? Short answer, PMS. There is data to support trans women experiencing a hormonal fluctuation within 21 to 28 days every month. The estrogen that's prescribed to us for our hormone replacement therapy is bioidentical to the estrogen that is produced by people who are assigned female at birth. And everyone's body cycles hormones regardless of whether or not you're on HRT. And if you're a trans woman who's medically transitioning, this is going to happen regardless of whether or not your dose is consistent. Trans women do experience PMS, and we do also sometimes experience cramps because of that. So do cis women who have had hysterectomies. Now, the medical literature isn't 100% concrete on why we experience PMS, but we do. It's pretty much just been chalked up to how the human body processes female hormones. That being said, trans women have all of the hormones in our body that would allow us to experience such a thing. We have estrogens, progesterones, and prostaglandins, which are produced by everyone's body.
I did see this in some of the tweets where they were like, excuse me, you crazy transgenders don't even realize about the prostaglandins. But all bodies produce prostaglandins. They're produced in different ways, depending on kind of what your internal sex organs are like. All bodies are capable of producing this hormone, and it seems that that plays a role in why trans women experience these PMS symptoms.
So it would make sense that we experience cramping the same way that cis women without uteruses do. Also, any area of the human body that has smooth muscle can just cramp like this. And there is a lot of smooth muscle in the pelvic and abdominal regions. Even in cis women who still have the uteruses, it's not just the uterus that's cramping at this time of the month. It's that smooth muscle. I'm not saying this happens to every trans woman, because it doesn't, but it does happen often enough that it's talked about in trans circles. The only thing that I think that I did wrong was using the word period to describe what was happening, and I'm sorry for that. Even with my gender studies degree, I guess I lacked the background knowledge to understand that the connotation for that word was specifically for shedding of the uterus.
Oh gosh, I think it's rather telling how much she's had to stress about using a slightly incorrect word where there was a better, more like scientifically applicable word. But like, nobody would be this uncharitable. A cis woman who had a hysterectomy talked about, I feel like I'm getting my period, and that's just what's so telling about this entire experience.
But even after a simple Google search, which anybody who watched that video could have done, I understand that the language I should have used is PMS. It's my understanding that the reaction that this video elicited came from a place of transmisogyny. The issue that people had were their belief that my partner and I are appropriating womanhood somehow. It's just a turf talking point. I am firmly rooted in my experiences as a woman, and I think that every trans woman deserves that same level of respect and validation. Was the video that I posted cringe? Yes. Will I apologize for posting a video of a trans moment to my trans audience without knowing that it would go viral? No. Trans people should not have to become experts in our bodies or identities in order to validate our experiences. I'm tired of the bigotry. Many of you are not doctors, you're not biologists, and you are not experts on trans bodies. Have exactly the day you deserve.
The understanding of trans bodies in general is so poor. I mean, we can even talk about this from like a medical perspective where even just like trans medicine in general is nowhere near as good as cis medicine, and doctors' understandings of our bodies is not as well known as doctors' understanding of cis bodies. This is also true of like any marginalized group. Our understanding of women's bodies is worse than our understanding of men's bodies. Our understanding of white bodies is much better than our understanding of black bodies. This happens across the board where marginalized groups, their bodies are much less understood than the bodies of majority groups. And that's a real problem in medicine, one that we absolutely can and should address. And then you have transphobes on Twitter pretending that they know so much about trans bodies that there's no way that a trans woman could experience a cramp, which, I mean, there's no reason to like fake a cramp for internet points. It's a real phenomenon. You can do a Google search and find trans communities talking about this, as well as trans people and scientists talking about the biology and the bodily mechanisms behind why this happens. Information is literally free, but hate is so much easier to spread. It's so much easier for people to just go on libs of TikTok and call this trans person delusional, instead of just doing a quick Google search and being like, oh, they're experiencing a real phenomenon, but I guess they should have used the term PMS, which that's literally all it ought to be chalked up to. But trans people receive death threats. That's the world we live in, folks. That's where we're at.